Yeah, thank you everyone and welcome. Today we're going to have our session about the industry PhD program for Race for 2030. First things first, I would like to welcome and acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we're all meeting today across the nation. Currently, I am on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge of these lands, and that lands were never ceded. Today's presentation agenda is going to look at an overview of the Race for 20 research program themes. We're going to look at the experience of the industry PhD program to date from both the student experience side. So we're going to have one of our students, Marsha, speaking about her experience as a PhD student. And we're also going to hear from Mark Hibbert from Planet Arc Power as well, from the industry side, as to the benefits of having a PhD student. I'll then lead a discussion around the PhD application process. We have two different models for this. I'll give you a demonstration of how to do this and what that looks like. And then I will lead a discussion on the benefits of the PhD program, and we'll wrap things up with any questions and hopefully some answers for you as well. All right, first things first, I wanted to set the tone of this webinar and just kind of give you a bit of an overview of the objectives that we're wanting to get out of this presentation. So first things first is that we're wanting to make sure that any industry partners that are here, or any prospective industry partners that are here, are aware of how the Race for 2030 or RACE PhD projects can be an avenue of research and development for their organizations. We're also wanting to promote and bring about an understanding and awareness for our research partners of the Race for 2030 funding options for industry PhD students. We have a goal of having 55 students complete by the end of the CRC, and we're currently about halfway. So we've got a bit of money left over currently to throw towards more PhD students. So plenty of scope there for interested parties to get involved. First things first, I'm going to have a brief overview of what RACE is and what we're focusing on. So for those who are uninitiated, RACE is a 10-year cooperative research centre that started in 2020 and will run to 2030. Hopefully, we'll have retired ourselves out of the workforce, having done our job. I wish, but our actual goal is to fund industry-led research and have that research lead to reducing emissions by 9 megatons and an economic benefit of 3.9 billion by 2030. So how are we going to do this? As you can see, we have 5 research themes here, and these are where we're going to look to fund projects to decarbonize the energy ecosystem. We have the business space, Race for Business. In this area, think about industrial and commercial buildings, manufacturing, digital tools like AI and machine learning. We have the Race for Home space, which speaks to residential opportunities, networks, which relates to the grid, like how renewables can integrate better, and from where, or even the use of microgrids. We have Race for EVs and the growing importance that these have for both transport and grid reliability. And finally, Race for Change, which is the intersection of behavior across the 4 themes. And this also looks at how we're going to develop a workforce to achieve these goals and looking at end users to design better, more innovative systems. And of course, the Race Industry PhD program spans across all of these themes, and we have students in each of these 5 themes. So this is a little bit more detail. I'm not going to keep this slide up for too long. It is on our website in case you're wanting to dive into the detail. We might have the website dropped into the chat for everyone as well. Otherwise, it will form part of the email mail out, including the recording of this webinar moving forward. But it is on our website if you want to see more specifically what type of technologies and focuses that we've got. This is the the slide or the section on the website that you're really wanting to delve into. Speaking of innovation and what we are looking at funding, we have an innovation framework. And because, as Stephen Wolfram so eloquently puts it, without a framework into which to put it, I cannot learn stuff. So this is leading us to why we're here today, which is RACE's Industry PhD program. And this program relates to the knowledge sharing component of our innovation framing. Most, if not all, CRCs have a PhD program as part of that commitment to knowledge sharing. And we're no different. And part of our program is looking at knowledge sharing and market transformation. So how we can bring about research and get it used within industry today. So I'm really hoping that Marsha has joined us because we are going to flip it. Oh, yes, she has. Wonderful. I'm going to have Marsha speak about her experience and tell you a little bit about what it's like to be a Race for 2030 PhD student. Over to you, Marsha.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Okay. Do you have my voice? Hello, everyone. Do you have my voice?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Drew, for getting this opportunity to me today to explain my experience in this line. I can remember almost 9 months ago, I started my PhD under consideration of the UNSW as the academic partner and Buildings Alive company as the industrial partner of this project for a project that have been founded and has been sponsored by Rise for 2030. It's very, very amazing opportunity for me to work on a project topic that is not only isolated to the academic perspective, but also could be a resource for have a powerful answer to a real world problem that may be existing in an industrial perspective and in our Australian energy market related to building sector. Some of benefits of my research is including helping to demonstrate the building owner to know how can they use up the renewable energy resources more beneficial for improving their performance in reducing carbon energy emission in their buildings, and investigating some solutions for having better response to the demand of buildings for energy consumption due to different scenarios that may be existing and different types of technologies that can be used in this regard. More effectively using of these technologies and scenarios are very, very important. And I think it's very good to know how we can better use of renewable resources for smoothing the line of energy transition in commercial building, especially in Australia as the main contributor of emission, carbon emission in Australia in the building sector. It's very, very good for using the results of this research for making better policies and regulations for the building owner in future, for example, maybe forcing using of some technologies that can be now expensive, but is essential for smoothing the line of energy transition and improving the performance of the building in energy management. Developing demand side management policies and scenarios better in comparison to past also is one of another target that I'm following by my research.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marsha. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for you. Let me just ask myself. How has working with an industry partner enriched your understanding of your topic?
Yes, well, I think working with an industrial partner and working on an industrial project is very amazing because, first of all, I think it's a good opportunity to work on a real world problem, and it gives the researcher access to a practical application instead of being also isolated to a research gap that can work only in academia. So making a powerful linkage between academic research that can be found in the literature and finding some solutions that can be useful for solving this problem in the real world is very, very important, and one of the most important advantage of working on an industrial project topic. Instead of that, I can also mention that access to data sets and using of accurate and safe data that can guarantee the results of the project can be useful and cannot added additional cost for the investors and for the contributors in future is very important. So access to data can be very, very more smooth in comparison to researchers that are only working on academia sector. And the chance for improving abilities and skills proportional to the roles that can be defined in future in the line of this research. And smoothing the career plan in future for the researchers is very important by working on an industrial project. And having the chance to increasing the network and learning about the organizational culture in this field and in the country that we are studying in Australia, and awareness about the regulations and policies that are existing in our research area that can be related to renewable resources is the most and critical advantage of working on an industrial project.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds like they've really supported your learning, which is great to hear. How has this relationship influenced not only your learning, but possibly altered the direction or methodology of your project? Has this shaped it in different ways than what you're expecting from the start of your project?
Yes, since 8 months ago that I've started my project, in the first part, I'm using the advice received from my industrial partner for narrowing the research area because the topic that I'm working is decarbonization of buildings, and this topic covers a wide range of keywords, a wide range of methodologies that are used by researchers now in the world. So finding the accurate keywords and narrowing the research area to have a good response to the research questions that have been defined for that is very important. So monitoring the literature review and trying to find the best ways to have an accurate answer to the questions was the first part of contribution of the industrial partner for me. And in the continue of this path, I had this chance to using their advice for forming the research defined research gaps to very, very positive and practical research questions for my project. And in continue, I think I have this chance to have their monitoring for the results and methodologies that can be used. For example, now I'm working on machine learning techniques for developing some data-driven optimization techniques for better response of buildings to the changes of demand. So due to the widespread and wide range of techniques that are existing, I think the monitoring of industrial partner for selection, the best of them, and improving their performance due to the needs that are existence in their company. I think it's a very, very important part of their contribution.
Yeah, awesome. Last question. What skills or knowledge have you gained throughout this collaboration that you believe will be valuable for your future career in either academia or industry?
Well, I think answering to this question can be separated in two parts. From technical parts, I think I have this chance to learn more about forecasting techniques, about what different groups of machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence algorithms that can be useful in this line. I had this chance to learn my some problems in coding and find how can I improve my abilities in this regard and improve and boost my techniques in this line. I had this chance also be familiar with some organizational software that are common software that are using in Australian organization, and that I had not experienced to work in them before. And from, I think, individual perspective, it's very, very good experience to learn the Australian organizational culture, as I mentioned, learn how I can make a powerful communication with other people and find my problems also in making communication with English language due to that I'm an overseas student and English language is not my first language. I can learn how it can be adopted with the targets that can be defined and the missions that can be defined in the organization, and how R&D team in the Australian organization can follow a target based on the nature of the market, based on the nature of the government and policies that are making in this way.
Amazing. Well, Marsha, thanks so much. It has been a pleasure hearing about your journey so far, and I really look forward to seeing what impact your research has moving forward. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Mark. Thanks so much for joining us, and appreciate you working around your current busy schedule.
Just a brief introduction. Planet Power is the trading name for Alexis Energy, and I'm a global director for consulting, but I also look after a lot of the research and development work and work with a lot of the PhD engineers that are doing that work, some of them internally and others through universities and RACE and other organisations. And we have a power electronic device, which is our main market entry product. It's a fully four-quadrant capable inverter, which we can use basically battery systems and so on, but also as a SATCOM in the distribution network if you're not backing it up with a battery. So we've been doing a number of trials lately, an arena trial and some other work with RACE and other work with different universities. But we're basically at the front end of technology with this device. I mean, SATCOMs have been around for a long time, inverters have been around for a long time. But in terms of what we're doing with it and some of our technology, it's quite novel. And so there's always areas for research to be done to improve the product and help us keep an edge in the market in terms of technology innovation and stuff like that. And that's where I see these sort of forums fitting in. So that's just a brief introduction from me. I'm sort of I think it's probably easier to follow on with just questions and answers from here rather than me carry on. I don't know if you think about that about the right way to go, Drew.
Yeah, sure. I have you've timed it perfectly. We were just about to encroach on the question time, but I'll kick off with a couple questions. What is it, do you think, that is so attractive for industry to have a PhD student involved in their organization?
Well, firstly, we're a small group, so we have a number of PhD engineers that we employ directly, but we can't afford to employ as many as we need. And so having a PhD student and sometimes postdoctoral student, postdoctoral researchers as well, join us through university collaboration means we can have a larger number of people working on different aspects of the things that we want to develop. And it brings more brains to focus on the problem. It brings the diversity of ideas of having different people involved, which is always an important thing, which helps with innovation and stuff like that. and it reduces the overall costs of the R&D effort.
Yeah, awesome. This one's potentially a bit of a curveball question mark, but obviously working with the cutting edge of research, sometimes there's challenges, obstacles. How do you work with the students to overcome any challenges or obstacles that might come up during the innovation process or the research process?
Well, there's probably multiple answers to that depending on the problem that we're looking at, but generally the easiest way to solve problems is to work collaboratively and break down the issues into chunks, and then you might focus the student on one thing, and I'll look at something else myself, or I might pass it off to one of our team members that might have expertise in the right area to have a look at, and then you bring all those components back together again, say the week after, and have another discussion. It's research is difficult because you can't clearly plot a course, because quite often you don't know what you're going to find. So you have to be adaptive, and you have to be flexible to try different approaches and try different ideas. And that's basically how we break down the problems. Sometimes problems are not quite so technical; they more might be logistical. So you get into areas where you might need to get someone with a bit of practical experience to sort of come in and collaborate with the research effort. Sometimes they're purely technical, so then you might just find someone with the right experience to bring in some technical viewpoints that are maybe slightly different, whatever. And so I think that's probably the best way I could answer that one. It's quite a tricky question in some ways.
Yeah. I might throw open to the floor if anyone has any questions for Mark. And I know that in the past I have had researchers ask me when they're talking to industry about what are some of the reasons that doing an industry PhD in particular is a great idea. So if anyone feels comfortable coming either off camera or off mute, feel free to raise your hand or jump out and ask a question. Yeah.
I'll ask a question, Mark. Drew, just wondering, so I'm Simon Clusian, I'm from the University of New South Wales, and I'm involved in the in managing the industry HDR program there. How have you found the transition of your industry of PhD candidates when they've come into your workforce? Like, are they able to easily adapt to the different environment once they've when they've come in?
Yeah, it's a good way to actually try before you buy, I guess is a coarse way of describing it. But a lot of the students that we have worked with on industry programs get offers to come and join us, and those that have largely been very successful. I think we've only really had one or maybe two that didn't work out that well. And a lot of our staff who've now been with us for like seven or 8 years or more came through that process. And it's a really useful process because in the research part, they learn a bit about our technology and what we're doing, and they get an interest for what we're doing in the business and in the industry. And then if they finish their research and then come and work for us, they're already up to speed with what we do, and that makes a big difference. So it's been very successful for us, that aspect of the collaboration.
Right. And I'll ask one more question. How have you found the levels of university bureaucracy to manage when you've engaged with PhD students? Has that been problematic, or has it been fairly smooth most of the time?
Oh, reasonably smooth. It just takes a while to get things done sometimes, approvals processes and that, but any big organisation is the same. my background's in the electricity industry, so, you get used to waiting for things to get approved.
Sure. Cool. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Simon. I'll run through the application process. So we have recently decided to offer both. So we've always offered a traditional scholarship, so a 3-year scholarship for our students, and a change in our modus operandi has been to start offering a student top-up scholarship. So the typical 3-year scholarship I'm going to label as the traditional scholarship, and the top-up scholarship will just be the top-up scholarship. These little graphics actually come from some of our leaflets for industry partners. So this is how we value the project in terms of what a industry PhD would look like for an industry partner. There is a 25% kind of fee that RACE takes as part of administration and part of the training processes for some of the students. And so what the students actually receive is $123,000 a year, but the total project cash value is $148,000 for a full 3-year scholarship. For the top up, we pay the students $13,000 a year plus a $3,000 allowance. This is paid pro rata. So if a student only has 10 months to go, then it's paid pro rata to that, but they still get the full $3,000 allowance. This information is on our website. If you have any queries about that, feel free to ask or email me. And I'm going to delve right into what that looks like in reality. So the typical process for a full 3-year scholarship application is to email info@race.com.au. Sorry, at racefor2030.com.au. And then I'll get your email eventually, and we will organize you a login to our portal here. So this is an example of me logged in as Sam, and the circle here represents the button that you'll need to click to submit a PhD project EOI. Now, I'm going to shift to this screen here. Can everyone see this screen that looks like what I just showed? Thumbs up, great, amazing. So you'll click, as I kind of mentioned, logged on as Sam, you'll click on this link here to submit for a PhD EOI. There'll be a nice little blurb here about what we pay the students, and this is my email. So if you need any help during this process, we're happy to help with anything here. We're looking at streamlining, so you won't have to put in the X here, but in case some of you have already done this in the past. But you'll create a project title. The type is already PhD, which is already logged for you. The research program relates to those 5 programs that I mentioned before. If you know those, great. And if you don't, that's okay. We can help you with that later down the track. And then it's very similar to a RACE project in that you have a couple of boxes asking about the research summary, the project importance, and a few other things here as well. You also have the principal supervisor. That's the academic supervisor who will be looking after them. And then you have the PhD industry supervisor. To search those, you just click on here and you search for the person. If you don't know the people who are going to be involved, please just put their details in here and we can find them and add them to our system. Great. Once you have done that, you'll hit save, not the little X, you'll hit save. And then that will then bring you to your project section. So for a traditional application process, you'll have a test project here. And if I click on this, it will take you to the expression of interest in drafting, and you'll be able to edit these details. So if we have any feedback, you can just click on this and you can kind of say, this is a test application. Thanks for the feedback or something like that. You get the idea. And then once you have all those details, you just press save. And when you are ready, you'll then just submit the EOI, and then away we go. And the process is very similar to the race process for our research projects. So once an EOI has been submitted, it gets evaluated by the research team. We give you any feedback, and then we, assuming it's been approved, it goes to a full application, in which case we'll need the industry partner confirmed by that stage. And then once that is confirmed, then we go to the university and the principal supervisor and say, great, you've got an approved project. Please go ahead and source a suitable student for this. Right. And taking you back to our wonderful little PowerPoint. All right. Sorry, I've just lost my mouse for a second. There we go. Wonderful. Then for the top-up application process, it's a very, very similar process. This one, you'll probably email me directly for the top-up. This is for a student that's already going with their PhD and is doing relevant research. So ideally, you'll check the Race for 2030 website, and you'll have a look at the research themes, the 5 research themes, and you'll think to yourself, great, my student's doing something in the EV space, and I think it would be a perfect addition to what Race is being involved with. And you'll email me, and then I'll create a full application PhD form for you within that very same portal that we were just showing you. And then under the My Project section, which I just showed you, it will just be a slightly different stage. So it'll be a full application in draft stage. So from there, you can log in, you can fill it out, and then once you're ready to submit, you'll hit submit and await evaluation. I don't think I mentioned just before about the evaluation stage after a full application. So this goes for both the top-up and the traditional scholarship model. Once you've gone to full application, it then goes to an evaluation panel with our chief research officer, the relevant program lead for the research theme that you're looking to submit, whether or not that's Race for EVs, or if that's Race for Networks, or Race for Business. The relevant program lead in that space will be one of the evaluators, and also likely myself, and at times as well, our research general manager as well. So those are the 2 processes for submitting. It's typical that we will have the research partner, so the academic who's going to be the supervisor for the student, submitting the EOIs or the full application for a top-up scholarship student. This is simply because we typically ask research questions of the parties for this project. However, if you are an industry partner and you are very aware of what your research problem is, then we can also assign a login for you as well. It's slightly less common, but it is possible as well in case there's any industry partners on this webinar chewing at the bit, ready to submit for a PhD. Next, some of the benefits of the program. This speaks a lot about the benefits for the student. We do have specific benefits that we can tell you as part of industry and as part of research as well. But for the students, I noticed that we do have a couple of our current students on the call and a few prospective students as well who are waiting on some evaluation of their submissions. So as part of our onboarding process, we do send our students a questionnaire to get to know them. And then these responses do go into a profile that is live on our website, and which we share on the Race LinkedIn page as well. There are opportunities for our students to present their findings and promote the benefits of their industry partners at various things, from webinars like today, where we heard from Marsha and her association with Buildings Alive, to industry events like the State of Energy Research Conference in Perth earlier this year, where one of our PhD students, Ben James, actually won the opportunity to pitch his PhD as he was selected as one of the top 4 posters, so a research poster at the conference. And there are other events too, like university-specific lectures and the like, which students can be involved with as well. We've also started to seek out specific training and development opportunities for our students. For example, Marsha has participated in a Future Women in Leadership program hosted by the Australian Power Institute, who we are closely aligned with. And we're also at the end of Feb, so only a couple of weeks ago now, we had our first cohort of students pass through training with the online news organization, The Conversation. This training was specifically tailored towards articulating the students' research into industry-specific language. So it's great that we have some of the brightest minds solving the biggest issues. But as my old boss used to say, if your solution, or in this case, your research, doesn't make commercial sense, then it doesn't mean squat. Now, while we're not quite so blunt, this training is teaching students to articulate their findings first and giving only the right amount of context to ensure you know that it's legitimate without the full essay, which is quite important for those in industry who obviously are looking at the commercial sense of decisions day in and day out. So it's getting those two worlds to align and to marry up nicely. And then when you do want to delve deep into the specifics, you can talk to the students as long as you like. They're very friendly, all of them. And then finally, something I'm committed to ensuring for this program is that it is equitable. That is that it represents gender and diversity, including Indigenous students, and that it ends up being a safe space for our students, and that it eventually evolves into a community of practice. The idea being that students will eventually share and lean on each other, both in a professional context and hopefully as friends moving into the future as well. So since I started as a program supervisor, we've actually gone from 33% female participation to 50%, which is fantastic. And throughout this time, we have had an Indigenous student, but to be on track with our goals, this particular metric we'd like to increase, and we'd like to see some more domestic and in particular Indigenous students join our cohort as well. Like these goals, building community does take time. So this year, we're actually looking at holding an in-person event to reignite this feeling of camaraderie and bonding as well, and to allow the students to get to know each other and bond over their study and industry experiences. Meanwhile, at least one university partner in particular with quite a few students, they have actually started to reach out to start socializing amongst themselves, which is great to see. So at some point, we may have some state-based activities or some university-specific activities as well to allow each of our students to feel a little bit more at home. We are at the end of presentation question side of things. So before I jump into any questions, I'll just briefly say that now as part of the objectives for the session, you've seen both from the side of the industry and the student side how we have gotten to what are some of the benefits for PhDs to be embedded into industry, and how this can be a competitive advantage for organizations to have this research, this cutting edge process for industry to kind of really validate and use to promote their products and their services moving forward. And then researchers, you're now aware of the approval pathway of attaining a PhD through RACE. As I mentioned before, we've got a target of 55 students. We're about halfway, so you know that we have a decent chunk of money from the Commonwealth set aside for PhDs. I should highlight as well that we are continuously open to accepting proposals at any time. There's no 2 cohorts a year. We've just rolled into an open season. So if you have a project at any stage, feel free to contact RACE, and we'll accept a PhD application at any stage throughout the year. So with all that said and done, does anyone have any questions about anything that we spoke about? Was anything not clear? Do you have any feedback? Were my jokes appreciated? Anything at all, feel free to raise your hand or come off mute. Preferably one at a time.
Sorry.
Hello, Drew. I have a question. This is Kaching from University.
Yes.
So for the PhD scholarship program, is that limited to the partner contribution only from race partners, or it can be a project partner? So I ask this because, say, for example, currently some of the research project can have a project specific partner which contributes the cash to the project, which have 25% of the contribution goes to the overhead, where actually the rest get the leverage. Does that actually apply to the PhD scholarship?
Yes, good question. So for those who might have missed it, the question was, are we open to having project-only partners? So from the industry side, who aren't already a race partner? The answer is yes. We are willing to accept project-only partners to be the industry partner for a PhD. Unfortunately, yeah, because of the way that our funding model is structured, any contribution from them will be applied like a normal partner would. So that 25% will go towards the administrative side of race. So for a project-only partner coming in to support a PhD, their overall commitment would be $50,000 over the 3 years, or $16,667 per year. And that would make up the 1/3 contribution to the student. I'm sorry, I've missed the second part of your question. There was something else in there as well, wasn't there?
Sorry, just follow up of this question. Can I make a clarification? So in that case, for project partner, they need to contribute 50,000 overall the life of project for 3 years. Then we can ask for like a sort of remaining PhD student scholarship practically from race.
So for existing partners, they typically already contribute a certain amount of funds each year, and they already have their funds attributed in the 75-25% way. So say, for instance, if we're talking, let's use a big example. So if we're talking about AGL, for instance, or something like that, they might contribute a large chunk of money each year. And so when that pool of funds goes towards a PhD student, in that instance, we kind of, their understanding is that $12,500 will be pulled out of their pool of funds and go to the student. So the student will get $12,500 from the industry partner. They probably are less likely to be as concerned about the overall contribution. The contribution is $50,000 for the student, but because they're funding other things at the same time, that's probably when they are less likely to be concerned. Did that answer your question, Nikki, or was there?
Just in overall clarification, because the PhD scholarship is around $34,000. So if you are bringing new project partner, which is not part of the race, their contribution should be like 25% of this 34,000 minimum, to make sure, or no, maybe double this amount, because half of it goes as a administration part of race, and another half the ratio is going to be 25%, 75%. So 25% they are contributing for PhD scholarship and 75% coming from race.
Yeah, so they don't fund all of it. Sorry, skip past one. So the industry partner, the industry partner contributes about 1/3, so about 33%. the research partner. So that would be the university. So
Mhm.
it could be UNSW or QUT or Curtin or one of our 8 university partners. They also contribute a third, and then Race pays for that other third. That's also the case for a project-only partner. So say, for instance, if a brand new partner came in, they would be contributing just that 1/3 as part of it. And so they would marry up with one of our university partners to work with us in that respect. So the 25% tax, if you want to kind of think of it like that, that applies the 16,667 figure that you see there from the industry partner. Technically as well, that also applies to the research partners. But like I said, kind of like a large pool, if you imagine it, UNSW might have, I don't know the figure, but if we say it's $500,000 a year that they pull towards research projects, then that's probably less likely that they'll kind of bat an eyelid about the 25% for a PhD. Someone in accounting will definitely know, but in terms of this, that's the way it goes. The only difference is in the top-up scholarship. So if you see there, the race contribution is the 13,000 per annum, plus 3,000 per annum for the expenses or the allowance. So we don't ask for any contribution from either the university or the industry partner as part of a top-up. That's just the component that race would fund for a full 3-year scholarship. So that's how we kind of circumnavigate that in case a student comes on board and they have an industry partner that's I'm making it up, but like a community housing project or something like that. And so they're getting in kind, so they're getting data or they're getting access to sites or something like that. And that's kind of the industry partner in that sense. They might not have funds to attribute towards paying the student any extra. So that's why the scholarship's slightly less attractive on the top up, but hopefully the student already has a scholarship somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Oh, hey Drew, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, hi Drew. Jeremy Cox calling. Speaking. Thanks so much for your presentation. It's really insightful and useful at this point. So thank you. I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone in what a great opportunity it is to try out for this. I just have 2 quick questions, or hopefully quick. Firstly, in the EI process, you mentioned at that point you don't necessarily need to have lined up a partner. In the context of what Nikki was talking about and others, there's this kind of project partner concept, which maybe some of us are looking at. I'm certainly looking at. But in the absence of that, do you guys do any sort of matchmaking insofar as you look? We've got the university lined up. We've got some sort of strong alignment with race. We've done all that work. But we haven't yet to get an industry partner. So obviously we need one as part of the process. So that's the first question. And the second one was the various work streams, the 5 work streams are terrific and so entwined that clearly you go into one of them, homes, for example. But it seems there's a lot of crossover. So I suppose your point around community of practice and so forth, the fear of missing out, sort of knowing what else is going on and who's doing what, it seems to be a real potential positive spillover with this program and the framework, as you say. So just really interested in sort of, should anyone be successful, what sort of structure is there to compare notes and make sure we're not duplicating or at least adding value to each other's work? Sorry, that was a bit longer than I thought. Sorry, Drew.
No. Those are some great questions. Yes is the short answer to your first question. We do some matchmaking. We do have a partnerships team. And so obviously my role kind of falls within the research team at Race, but we do have a partnerships team. And they are very focused on helping kind of align those kind of industry needs with the project. So if you were to have a project only concept come through or an EI come through, then we'd naturally talk to them about, hey, who's best positioned? Is Essential Energy interested in this? Is Endeavour interested in this? Whoever it is that kind of aligns with that expression of interest that you've submitted. There's kind of like an ongoing conversation. You're not just kind of left in the lurch about, I submitted this and hopefully I'll find the right person to have the conversation with. So
right.
Sometimes, unfortunately, as it is, some industry partners who you think would be really great for it and really aligned, sometimes they come back and say, hi, sorry, like not right now. Just kind of as the way it kind of goes, but we are kind of getting better at making sure that those requests are directed and persuasive and things like that.
That's great. So just to clarify, we would, for you to provide us a login, for example, one of the really helpful bits of information you provided up front was that sense of, we get in touch with you, you provide some details. That's on the basis that we've obviously lined up the university who's a partner with RACE, and we've got all of that information. But at that point, we will get our own login rather than, I think we've had separate discussions around the university having a login that we can't submit through ourselves.
Yeah. So as long as you're a partner with RACE, then you're eligible for a login. Ideally, if you know of a particular researcher that you really want to work with at one of our partner universities, great. If you don't, we're again happy to kind of introduce you to whoever it is that we know in our network who's kind of the best fit. And
that's clear.
Oftentimes it's geographic as well, but if it's not geographic, we're all on camera right now, so we're getting used to networking across the country. So answering your second question or comment, that's a great question about ensuring how we understand where the research is. So that first evaluation, when it kind of goes past the EOI conversation, that's when all of the research team at RACE has a chance to kind of evaluate and discuss it. And so that's when some of the people with experience in homes from residential look at it, and maybe there's a crossover between building envelopes. So you're looking at commercial buildings and apartment buildings or something like that. So maybe there's some kind of I don't know what type of projects you're looking to submit, but maybe there's that collaboration between kind of RACE for business and RACE for homes there. And so like as part of that discussion, typically there's feedback around, oh, have you considered this? Have you considered that? So yes, initially, and then more broadly as well, we've made it optional for our PhDs. For our broader research projects, it's necessary, but you can have an industry reference group where you have people from industry weighing in. So if there's the case where there's a bit of overlap that you suspect across the different programs, you can have someone from Mervac, for instance, and then someone else from commercial building space like a CBRE or something like that, who kind of like are able to give their 2 cents each time there's a meeting, so that you can kind of look at what's coming from industry and make sure that the research is actually focused on the right thing and it's not duplicating work.
Thanks so much, Drew. That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay.
Any other questions,
Drew,
Andrea?
I just have a quick one. Actually, I was wondering if it would be possible to have a PhD project, a scholarship within a sort of traditional RACE project. So something that, even though it's funded by the project to cover some aspects, but of course the research is supposed to take longer perhaps than the traditional project. Would that be possible to sort of attach it as part of it, or do we have to think about something specifically for the PhD?
That's a great question, Andrea. Thank you for that. Yes, of course, that's totally possible. We currently have 2 different projects where that is the case. Where one of them is energy flexibility for water corps, so water corporation. So we've got a Sydney Water and a Colburn Water in Victoria and New South Wales looking at a project, and it's a broad piece of work, but it has a PhD student embedded in that project doing a chunk of work on some AI stuff for that. And then we've also got the pathways to net zero precincts that has currently 3 PhDs, but it will end up being 6, I think, possibly even more. So they're doing discrete chunks of work or work packages, as it were, within a broader research project that will be multi-year.
Okay, so in that case, we can sort of foresee that the project has a certain duration, but we can sort of make a note in that case that the scholarship or the PhD project attached to it would continue.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
No worries. I'm conscious that we're at the hour mark. I'm happy to keep answering anyone's questions and to keep the recording going for anyone else that wants to stay on and ask away. If you have an immediate meeting, I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming on board. We will have the recording available for you at some stage once it's polished and finished up as well. So yeah, any other questions, feel free to shoot. If you have to run off to your next meeting or a late lunch or whatever it is, feel free to do that as well.
Hi Drew, my name is Lucian. I've just started a PhD. Sorry, I'm having issues with my camera, so it's just going to be audio. I just had a question about the specificity or how tightly you judge projects matching the themes for PhD projects.
Yeah, so in terms of the themes, so like you're not certain as to whether or not your research area would match up with one of them?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So that's typically on a kind of a case-by-case basis. I would encourage you to send me an email after this, and we can have a chat one-on-one and just kind of see where it lines up. I can give some pointers on that. We also have some kind of working relationships with other CRCs as well. So if it doesn't align with one of our research themes, but it does with someone else, then there's opportunities as well there for you to possibly work with them if we're not the right fit. But hopefully we are the right fit and we can have you on board. But yeah, shoot me an email after this, and it's just my name, drew.wiseham@racefor2030.com.au. I can pop in the chat.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
One question, Drew, on the chat right at the beginning. Somebody asked, for race top-up scholarships, do we need cash contribution from industry partners?
Yep. For the race top-up, do we need cash? Thank you, Hart. No, you don't need cash contributions from industry partners for the top-up scholarships. Andrea, can I do my second PhD through race? Yes, it doesn't have to be your first PhD. You could be doing your second or your third. That would be very impressive, but you could do it. I don't have any other questions there. Okay. If no one else has any questions, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think we will probably end the session there. Once again, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I've just put my email into the chat.